Susie, do we start with the introduction? I don't have a.
I'll be starting in just a moment. We're slowly having participants join us, so I'll start in just a minute. And then I'll be handing it off to you. Oh. Greg, my Zoom man, is it up to me to allow the presenters to share their screen?
I think they should be able, as co-hosts, they should be able to share on their own.
It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
So it looks like one participant can share at a time. But you're not able to share your screen, Julie?
Yeah.
Then perhaps as facilitator, Susie, you might have to assign that.
Let's see. I have not actually done that before.
Julie, is your share screen icon green?
It is now, yeah. It looks like I've got it now. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. We're going from 20 to 21 for a minute or so with participants joining us. So as you all join us, welcome, and please go use the chat feature and let us know where you're joining us from. We are going to go ahead and get started since we have a little bit of a late start today. And I would like to welcome everyone from across the nation and beyond. And this breakout session is about the Coalition for Career Development, Career Readiness, Pillar 1, which is prioritizing career planning. I'm Susie Rayford. I am with the South Carolina Department of Education, and I'll be your facilitator today. Please know that the breakout room session is being recorded, and the general time frame now for this presentation will be, it was going to be 2 to 3:15, so it'll probably run till about 3:30 p.m. today, Eastern Standard Time. Your presenters will be taking questions, and we look forward to an interactive discussion with you. I'll be managing the discussion to avoid talking over each other, and you may enter questions using the chat, or you may use the raise hand feature. We can be that informal today with 20 people. And I'd like to ask you to please remain on mute, and then you can unmute yourself when we see that your hand is raised and we call on you, just like in class. And we do encourage all attendees to please participate in the chat and raising your hand, etc. Now, I will hand it over to your presenters for them to introduce themselves and begin their presentations. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Susie. I will start and introduce myself. I'm Julie Lammers, Senior Vice President of Advocacy and Corporate Social Responsibility for American Student Assistance. Unfortunately, my boss, Jean Eddy, was scheduled to be here today, but she had something arise and couldn't make it today. So I'm thrilled to be here to join in this conversation with Penny Enroth to talk a little bit about how we prioritize career planning. So Penny, if you want to introduce yourself, and then we can launch into our presentation.
Okay, I am Penny Enroth. I'm chairman of the Palmer Foundation, and we do a great deal in workforce development granting and have for some 25 years. So that's
Great. So I will go ahead and share my screen, and I'll tell you just a little bit about ASA and the work we do and how we prioritize career planning. And then I know Penny has some information that she wanted to share as well. So let's see if I can get this to work. So this is us. Let me just pull it up here. There's me and Penny. As I say, I'm from American Student Assistance. We're a national nonprofit based in Boston, but our focus is on college and career readiness issues. We really are aiming to change the way kids learn about careers and post-secondary pathways at a much earlier age. Our focus for a very long time was in the post-secondary education space, but we found that by the time students got to us, they had made a lot of sort of poor, ill-informed, I should say, choices about why they were going to post-secondary education, how it aligned with the career path. And so a number of years ago, we took a big step back in the process to try to be more proactive in how kids plan for careers and post-secondary education pathways. So we're really trying to respond to the needs of Gen Z through a multi-pronged approach. And we do this by providing services directly to kids, mainly through digital experiences that we can provide at scale, through community partners, nonprofits, state entities, and school systems, and then through thought leadership, advocacy, and policy change, really to try to drive a systemic change around the issues that we care about. We also do a lot of grant making, fueling innovation through grants to states and nonprofits. We do work in Massachusetts around the expansion of their pathway program called Innovation Pathways. In the state of Delaware, we're funding opportunities to expand their pathway work into the middle school space by creating career exploration curriculum for the entire state of Delaware. In the state of Rhode Island, we're expanding their high school work-based learning program. And we're working with entities like Mentor to build social capital for students, or Cajon Valley School District in San Diego on a wonderful program they've got called World of Work, which starts career readiness activities starting in kindergarten. And those kids are really impressive. If you ever want to check out an interesting program, they've got a great video online. We also partner with organizations doing really good work in the career readiness space to try to help scale opportunities for kids. So whether it's the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship that tries to build entrepreneurial programs in schools, citizen schools, big picture learning, those types of organizations really doing wonderful work to expand career readiness. So those, it's sort of at high level what ASA is. I've got a little video here. Hopefully this will work. Let me see. We've had a lot of challenges with videos last day or so. Let's see if I can get this one to play. Can someone give me a thumbs up if you can see this video?
Not yet.
Not yet. Let me start that again.
It's starting. You want to do full screen on it? Not hearing it though. If you go back out, you have to probably hit the sound, play sound.
Okay, well, the video is not working, so I'm not going to prolong this. Our tech challenges these days, and I will just move on to the next slide. So we, it's just, you already saw a high level of who ASA is and what we do. We come at career readiness by trying to understand the problem from sort of a multitude of angles. So from an employer perspective, obviously this is a skills gap issue. From a policymaker perspective, it's focused on student success and economic prosperity. Higher education institutions, they're looking at enrollment issues and how best to sort of structure programming for students. And from a school system, there's a huge engagement issue that we have seen, particularly in the last few years as the pandemic has disrupted education. And all of this leads to a variety of issues that employers and businesses, students, and schools are trying to tackle. I'm sorry, my mouse is going a little bit haywire here. So from a skills gap perspective, we've heard a lot about this the last couple of days. You know, the folks from the Manufacturing Institute talked a lot about this huge skills gap issue in the manufacturing space specifically. We've seen in the last couple of months, 87% of employers saying that they have an identified skills gap or that they believe that they will within a year. College students are feeling unprepared for the working world, about 41% of them saying that even with a college degree, they don't feel prepared to work. And when we ask entry-level managers of entry-level employees, only 8% say they feel that employees are able to contribute immediately to the work that they're being asked to do. And one of the reasons is there's this huge disconnect between perception of career readiness and the reality of what students are actually able to do. This is from a study, now it's about 5 years old, that was done of the class of 2017 by the National Association of Colleges and Employers. And you can see that there's this huge disconnect between the perception of career readiness skills when the employers are asked than when the students are asked themselves. At some point, when it comes to sort of leadership skills, almost a 40% difference between those two skills. The only area you'll see that students actually rated themselves as slightly lower in proficiency than employers rated them was in the area of digital technology, which as digital natives, they're probably so used to that, it's not really a skill that they see in themselves. It's just something they've always done. So there is this huge disconnect between career readiness and the perception of the skills that students embody. And so this is obviously leading to some huge workforce challenges. One of the reasons there is this disconnect in the stage of career readiness is simply student exposure to the workforce. Brookings did a study and found that in 1979, 61% of teenagers were employed in some capacity. You're after school during the summer. By 2019, so pre-pandemic point, about 35% of teenagers were employed. And there's plenty of perfectly valid reasons for that. You know, certainly working harder on extracurricular activities, spending more time at school and doing a sort of a college readiness type activities. But that it does cause a gap when we think about the ability to develop skills, to build social capital, and to build an occupational identity, things that are really absent when kids are absent from the workforce. And we know when 50% of jobs still come through personal connections, that building a social capital early and the ability to have mentors and people who will influence the career trajectory is really, really important. So when kids are out of the workforce, that certainly happens at a greater extent. So this lack of job experience has led to decreased occupational identity, lack of skill development, and an increased skills gap. All issues that employers are seeing, as well as the issues that students, as they try to enter the workforce, are feeling. On the student engagement side, we know that the keys to student engagement in school are all of the things that are really strong drivers of career readiness, right? Making things relevant, making relevant connections to students' lives and lived experiences, connecting what's happening in the schoolroom to real world experiences, and then really some of the sort of workforce skills that we know are necessary: higher level thinking, ability to collaborate with others, autonomy, and really being able to work on your own. These things are keys to student engagement in school, but they're also really good markers of career readiness. So one of the things that was pointed out in Scott's report yesterday that is missing in a lot of this is an additional opportunity to expose kids to work through work-based learning. A study that ASA did a number of years ago said that 79% of students said that they would be interested in an internship or other work-based learning experience in order to gain skills or to explore a career field. But only 34% of students had heard of available opportunities for high school students, and only 2% of high school students had actually completed a work-based learning experience. So there's certainly a deficiency there, but also an opportunity to do more. So we can look at it from the positive and say that there's room for improvement there. There's also obviously, from the higher ed perspective, uncertainty about how to navigate post-secondary education is a huge concern for students. This is from a study that ASA will be releasing with JFF's Jobs for the Future next month at the Horizons conference, really looking at current perceptions of post-secondary education paths, how both students and employers are perceiving non-degree paths and how to navigate that. So one study showed that about 53% of high schoolers are saying they're unlikely to go to college. Well, if that's the case, then where are students going and what is it they're likely to pursue? Many students in the study we did said that they're interested in pursuing other paths, but the lack of understanding of quality makes it too risky a proposition to try. And on the employer side, 68% of employers agree that organizations should hire candidates from non-degree paths, so those are paths other than 2- and 4-year degrees. But same amount also say that they know that there is an inherent bias against candidates without a college degree. So this puts students in a position where they just don't know where to go and where to turn when it comes to post-secondary education. So there's a lot that we need to help kids navigate here. There's also a lot we need to do to make sure that there's a system there that supports them, supports the choices that they need to make, and one that works for both students, learners of all kinds, and meets employers' needs as well. So those are some of the high-level things that we look at when we're looking at career readiness. And so I think this points really, really well to Scott's report that was released yesterday. If you haven't had a chance to read all 179 some pages of it yet, I encourage you to do so. High-level recommendations, as he pointed out yesterday, are to establish some of these national and state career readiness coordinating councils so we understand the data and policy behind the decisions that are being made. To improve state work-based learning policies. As I said, it's a huge factor in giving kids the ability to not only re-engage with things that is schoolwork and understand the links between what they're doing in school to their working world, but really build both social capital, a workplace identity, and some practical lifelong skills. So that is a really one thing that at ASA we really prioritize. Third policy that the CCDC recommends is investing in personalized academic plans. This will certainly help students navigate the high school and post-secondary space a little bit better, and really heavily investing in career advising, which we know is a key to make sure students have the supportive systems necessary to make well-informed and competent choices. So those are some of the things that ASA looks at when we look at career readiness and why we prioritize it. I will turn it over now to Penny, and then we can get into a bit of a conversation about what you are seeing and where you think we should be prioritizing. Penny?
Okay. Am I on? Okay. First of all, I want to say I don't have any videos or slides, so you might be happy about that. Anyway, the first pillar of CCD Center states the need for a personal career and academic pride plan for all. This requirement is of great value for all students of all backgrounds. It changes our traditional view of the central purpose of education is to secure a 4-year college degree to a higher priority of securing employment for all students in their career chosen pathway. Some form of post-secondary education is increasingly important to secure employment, but it remains out of the reach of a large amount of our population at the present time. I want you to remember 2 percentages regarding college-bound kids. 60% and 41%. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, 62% of our 2021 high school students wanted to enroll or intended to enroll in colleges and universities. Yet there is a high dropout rate. The National Center of Education Statistics reports that just 41% of college students complete a bachelor degree in 4 years. That means 49% do not. The goal of college students is not to be accepted in college, pass the SATs, and get a scholarship for their own sake, but as a means to an end. It is to pursue a career pathway that secures higher wages and job satisfaction. It's a pathway to a career that takes an additional 4, 6, or 8 years of education. With a personalized career and academic plan, the college bound will be career ready upon college completion. College counselors can also assist college students with limited needs. If money is a problem for students, colleges might consider flex time, so students could work during the day and could attend classes in the evening and weekends or have virtual classes. In senior year, students could get aid with resumes and interviewing. In essence, we want to increase college graduation rates by prioritizing their career planning in high school and college. At the same time, personalized career planning academic plans will also help students who do not seek a 4-year or postgraduate degree. Since most careers will increasingly require some form of post-secondary education, high school career counselors should be able to advise on work-based learning and securing a non-degree post-secondary credential for the 38% that don't go to 4-year colleges. With those who are lucky enough to have dual enrollment in their state, students can get college courses in their high school and junior and senior year tuition free from community colleges. In North Carolina, where I live, the state's NC Promise, or North Carolina Promise, gives 2 tuition-free academic or certification college courses to junior and senior year students. But the counselor, again, the high school counselor, must arrange their high school curriculum so the high school requirements and course requirements of their career plan allows room in their schedule for the college courses. We did have 1 girl and 1 boy who also used the NC or North Carolina Promise in the summer and graduated with a high school diploma and an associate degree at age 18, tuition free. If a student takes a course in welding 1 or electrician 1 or carpentry 1, if they've had with the colleges, they can work during the summer and gather a wage and experience in their chosen field as an apprentice on a build or under a journey electrician. The same for the senior year. The college courses are tuition free and are based on, and the work-based learning is invaluable for their future career. In more counties, North Carolina, Sandhills Community College has Sandhills Promise. Students who get a C or better in the 4 college North Carolina Promise courses are eligible for a tuition-free scholarship for an associate degree at Sandhills Community College. If the student gets a Sandhills Promise scholarship for an associate degree and finishes that degree, they can expect an increase in their wages of over 41% over just a high school diploma graduate alone. Pathways, my friends, are not equity words, they're equity action. Personalized career plans will have exceptional value for students of limited means in an environment of low expectations who have difficulty envisioning career success for them, particularly if they sit down with a career counselor in 8th grade. If every student sees why they must finish high school and get a certification or an A degree to earn a good middle class wage, they will begin to rebuild America's middle class. The cover of Sandhills Community College spring list of classes states, learn to earn, i.e. that 41% increase in wages. The students in the 38% are practical. They want to know how long a course is, how long it takes, how much it costs, and will I earn, what will I earn when I've completed it, and what jobs are available within a 50-mile radius. So the Vice President of Workforce Development of Sandhills goes over to our high schools and explains each of the college courses for our 21 pathways and answers those above questions of the kids. Students that sign up as sophomores for the college courses, which they are interested in for the next year. There is a great rush to sign up as some classes fill and the students are disappointed, and then they can't get fitted into their curriculum. To local, state, and national politicians, I would point out that graduates who graduate with high school and get the additional education of a certification or a 2-year associate degree, they will have 4 things. First of all, they'll have a sort of hidden personal scholarship to continue their education after a certification, as they will have extra cash with their middle-class wage to set aside money for an associate degree. They and their parents, I will say, will prefer that they work in the day and go to school nights and evenings. The parents may be minimum class family, and they want that extra money of the high school graduate to help with bills. Also, these students would have enough money to be part of the economy, to buy a car, get married, support a family, and afford decent housing. In other words, they will attain the American dream with the extra schooling. For those students who push back and say they will not want me because I'm underqualified, you're wrong. And particularly in this job-hungry market, they will want you if you have trained skills. Do not miss this opportunity. All it takes is skills education. And through equity action pathways, doors will open and you will be included. Now, another thing for the politicians, students who have a middle class wages, not minimum wages, will be paying taxes, which should be good news for lowering our debt in cities, states, and the federal government. For this reason, it makes good sense to include money for certifications and associate degrees as well as 4-year degrees in city, state, and federal education budgets. The question often comes up, how can we afford a certified career counselor, much as particularly in post-COVID? Governor Evers of Wisconsin, who spoke at the summit yesterday, an education governor, had a program pre-COVID in which he gave directly back to Wisconsin high schools $1,000 each for each approved certification a student earned. Kewanee, Wisconsin and Northeast Wisconsin had 40 certifications and thus got $40,000, for which they hired a part-time career counselor to go out into their district and discover what skills are needed and jobs available. And I'd like to underscore that the governor had an approved list. This is something governors could do, to take the 60,000 or more certifications that are out there and figure out what are what does HR want and what do employers want? What are those that are of a national level? That would probably make it easier for the community colleges and the schools. Industry's role. The European and Japanese companies seem to understand that they need to have some skin in the training game. They understand that a trained workforce has a huge return on investment for their companies. Toyota has had a summer internship program for high schoolers for years. Nissan went to the governor of Ohio and their secretary of education some years back and said, we demand that you put industry certifications in your high schools. We are not manufacturing in your state unless you can guarantee a skilled workforce. You choose. Ohio put industry certifications in their high schools. This change came because industry asked for it. Unilever, a European company, bought industry certification programs for Polk High School in Polk County, North Carolina, and ran a course in the high school for 12 students. 10 students had a well-paying job before they graduated with 4 different companies. This is how great the need is. Remember that industry site selection committees are looking for a trained workforce. We need qualified professionals too. Therefore, CCD Center's call for personal career and academic plans is essential for companies as well as students or their future employees. The equity and inclusiveness of pathways for all will hopefully bring most of our trained students into the middle class and the American dream. All students with a pathway plan that documents their skills and knowledge assigned with the needs, aligned with the needs of the economy, will have improved prospects for work in high demand, higher wages occupations. Thank you.
Thanks so much. So I have a few additional slides that I can pop up that point to some questions that we can sort of collectively talk to. So, I would love people to chime in. This is supposed to be sort of a collaborative roundtable discussion. These are some conversations that we had come up with, thinking about whose role it is to ensure that all kids have equitable access to career exploration. What are some emerging models you'd like to highlight for us? There was a lot of sort of data and statistics thrown at you. I'd love to know if there is more that you have that we could use to solidify some of these arguments. How are K-12 leaders ensuring equity of access to career programming? How can businesses partner with schools to provide work-based learning experiences? How can higher education leaders connect with K-12 educators and community to ensure that kids are ready for college? So those are some of the questions that we had to start with. First of all, I'd love to hear someone's reaction to some of the information that we've provided, and then we can go from there. So who would like to start?
Julie, I can jump in. This is Brian. I'm with Gateway Technical College in Wisconsin. And first of all, just thanks to our presenters. I'm always so inspired by the work that already is being done and the examples of some of the best practices. And so I just want to say it. We appreciate that effort because that's what the CCD is founded on, those basic principles of alignment and collaboration and the spirit of sharing best practices. So just in reflection of some of the talking points here, just a couple of things that might enhance some of these networking opportunities. At Gateway, in all of our career pathway maps that we develop for our K-12 schools, we develop it for them, but in partnership with them as well. And I know that one of our great facilitators, Bao, is on this particular breakout session, so I'm sure she can add much more detail to that. But in the pathway map itself, we identify and list the industry credentials that students will earn. And so it's aligned with their academic preparation, and it kind of gives value and a new perspective on why they're taking those classes and what it means to the industry. So that's one way. We also help our schools fill out and file for those industry credential reimbursements that Penny mentioned, that $1,000. We assist our schools in making sure that they're taking advantage of that, because we know that more money in our K-12 schools means better prepared students as they transition into Gateway Technical College. And this last year, we served over 5,000 high school students. So that's an important feeder system for us as well. And just the last thing I'll comment and let others jump in, but the idea of how can business partners work with schools? To me, that's an easy one because they're the ultimate customer. We're producing a student or a graduate with the skill sets that are in high demand by our local employers. So we want to work with our employers to help them identify and assess the content, the curriculum, the alignment, the credentialing that goes along with it, so that when they do reach out and want to hire graduates, that they have an assurance that those graduates are of high quality and are going to be able to perform at a high level from the beginning. My short summary to our business partners is the old days of advertising and hoping people find you probably isn't going to work anymore. You've got to get yourself in front of the line. And if you're not even sure where the line is, then we've got to really do some hard work, because in our college, as an example, every 15 weeks we graduate students. So if you don't know what that cycle is, or you don't know the faculty, or you're unaware of the curriculum, then you're missing the opportunity to build your own talent from within your own community.
Yeah, and maybe we could just push on that for a minute, because and this is unlikely to be a concern for those actively engaged with the CCDC. But in general, businesses tend to point towards skills gap problems and then wait for education to solve that problem for them, right? So how do we get, and obviously we've heard from a lot of very engaged businesses in the last 2 days about how well that they are and are leading the effort to try to not be waiting on the sidelines for someone to solve this problem for them. But how do we, besides just pointing out the fact, all of the good business that this could be for businesses, there are lots of obstacles that businesses often point to for reasons to say no. How do we begin to either articulate that those are maybe not valid reasons and there are workarounds, or other ways that we can engage business and really show them that it is not as cumbersome as they might be envisioning, that there is a huge business value to them participating? What are some of the things that you do at Gateway to sort of prove that business proposition for businesses? They're really, really busy and have a million other things that they're trying to accomplish. Taking on one more thing might seem daunting. How do you do it?
So that's a really great question. And so first we have to continually remind each other that in order to have a qualified worker, and let's just say at age 18 when they graduate from high school, that had to have started 18 years ago. So if you started today, it's going to take 18 years to get an 18-year-old. So you're building talent for the year 2040 right now. Mm-hmm. But how to get and address that? One is certainly turn it inside. So for an example, the students that we have in our schools today have parents. They're likely to be working in your company, whether it's a manufacturing setting, a hospital, healthcare setting, whatever it might be. You can motivate your own employees by becoming engaged in your schools. They'll become a better employee, first of all, and they have some solutions on how they can help their own children, right? Maybe it's a school career fair, maybe it's a guest speaker, and let them get involved. That will develop two things. One, it helps the school, but it also helps the internal motivation of the company. Another thing that is important, I think, is creating that, like I mentioned, just this simple awareness. What are all of the opportunities and experiences that are available? Because most people remember their school experience from what they experienced. And even in our comprehensive high schools, it can be very limited. I, for example, was really interested in technology ed. So I took a CAD class and I took a manufacturing welding class, but I did not take an IT class or a business accounting class. So students still kind of gravitate toward what their interest is. And as they progress in their profession and maybe become a supervisor, didn't even know we had coding classes in our high school, right? So creating that awareness of what all the tools are available to them and how they can access that, I think is another great way. And then there are the more formal processes, which is every school needs an advisory committee. Every school superintendent has a network that they work within the community on business leadership, and really start to work your way into that. And I'll give you just one example. A good friend of mine, Mike Reeder, is the CEO for a manufacturing company in our community. He is on nearly every school board possible and every advisory committee, and hires interns from all of the different colleges, 2 4-year public, private, because he wants exposure in all those networks. And that exposure of his availability helps to build awareness around his company. And he celebrates that. So he posts on, in fact, this week is graduation for all his interns. You'll see a post from University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee. You'll see a post from Milwaukee School of Engineering. You'll see a post from Gateway Technical College, all promoting his engagement in those schools. So I think there's a lot of really creative ways that it can be done. But first, I would always say, look internal and create that engagement process by your employees. Their kids want your help. And if you can motivate their employees, it's going to be a better workforce for everyone.
That's wonderful. Thanks, Brian. Other thoughts? Love for people to come off mute and to join the conversation. Ask other questions if you have other questions for either me or for Penny. Happy to answer anything based on what we said or anything else you might be interested in within reason.
Susie, could I try one? Am I on? I'd like to say that on the 25th of this month, our chamber is having a roundtable with the CTE departments of our high schools, with the college, and with industry. And you'd be surprised what industry doesn't know about it means what's being taught in their own community colleges, and vice versa. The schools don't realize what industry really would like covered it. And there were many aha moments in the first one I attended like this. Just throw it out that it's very successful and it can be done over a lunch hour. So.
Penny, that is a great idea. Just as we in education are involved in our professional organizations or chambers, so are our business partners. And if you can tap into what their interests and where they're spending time, I give an example of the Precision Machining Association. So they have an entire foundation just on education. It's likely that our business partners are probably involved in PMPA and maybe didn't even know how they could access some resources available. And little reminders like that to say, hey, you're a member of this professional organization. SME is another great example. Jeannie spoke yesterday. They've got grant money, scholarship money. It's a win-win for everyone. The employer feels good because they helped bring additional resources to the community of which they've already invested in, paying their memberships in their own profession. And it's a celebration within the community because the employer gets recognized, the student gets recognized, and it just continues to build from within.
Julie, if I may say something, I'm Steve Coyle. I'm the National Director of Council and Academic Relations with Universal Technical Institute. And we really work hard with industry, and for a couple of reasons. We have 37 alliances with manufacturers. So we work with BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Toyota, Nissan, just to name a few of them. But what we do is we try to host events at those places, so that the kids can actually see what's happening there. So we have what we call industry days, where we have it right at the dealership or at whatever business that we're at, so that the kids can see it. But we do it for another reason. We invite the parents too. Parents tend to be old school. They still think of a dealership as grease and oil everywhere, and you might get a bottle of water. Now, when you go into a dealership, you get a glass of champagne. It's changed a lot, and I think it's important that we show kids, as Brian was saying, show kids what is out there available to them. But I also think it's important for them to have their parents too, so the parents can see, so we can get that buy-in. And then we really encourage. I'm a retired educator, teacher, coach, principal, superintendent. So I know how these schools operate, and so we try to get counselors involved as well, administrators, and we feel like by doing that, then we can give them a better idea of what's available. And the dealerships love it because these are future employees. And so they want them to see what they have to offer too. Just my 2 cents. Thank you.
And we appreciate your 2 cents, Dr. Coyle, because that's what it takes. It takes industry to step up. It takes organizations like yours representing industry to step up, to be role models, and to show other industry representatives that it's okay, you can do it. We found in my previous role before the South Carolina Department of Ed, and currently, I got better feedback and more engagement from business and industry when we personalized it. We would set an appointment and go meet with 2 or 3 people in an organization and talk to them about the Career Academy model, and we would want them to be Academy partners. So that was one role, and we ended up taking a few years to collect at least 20 or so in each sector that we focused on. And now as business and industry liaison, which came along with the reauthorization of Perkins 5 with the State Department of Ed, I have found that I still have to use that personal touch, because even asking an industry representative, an industry expert to come into a classroom and co-teach on a topic that they are experts on, they're still a little scared about being in the classroom with this professional teacher. And what do I know to be here teaching? But that's what they do know. And I was with a panel of industry experts yesterday talking to CTE administrators from across the state of South Carolina. And it's just what Penny was mentioning. The the industry experts on the panel were pushing it out to the educators, where I was holding my hand down because it wasn't appropriate for me to speak up at the moment. But what I wanted to say is we need more people like you industry experts, to come to the table. We need more industry to come to the table. But it's a learning process for industry representatives, just like educators have to learn how to approach industry without asking them for pizza coupons. You know, they need to approach industry about, would you be on my advisory board and make sure our equipment is up to par? Would you be on my advisory board and examine our curriculum? We're going through some industry recognized credentialing, sorting and tiering, and we're looking at that. And it's not something that just any business and industry person can join in on if they don't know career and technical ed. So there's so many, it's a learning process for everyone. And that was my 2 cents. And we have 2 comments in the chat that I would like to share. Let's see, Christine Scapidi, I believe she must be a Paisan.
Yes, that is, yep, you got it right. Good job.
She said, I would love to hear where state and national education leadership stand on this curriculum possibly being mandated. From an access and equity standpoint, many of these initiatives might need to be mandated for all students to receive the resources and exposure equally, especially K through 8. As with SEL, these lessons and opportunities can be collaborative and built into other lessons and many disciplines. Again, a reflection on Perkins 5 requirements as well. Do any of the speakers have a response to that?
I have one, and it's basically, let's see, what's her name? Virginia Fox, who was a ranking member at the Labor and Education Committee at the federal level, is against the training word. And the reason she's against the training word is because training is rote, or you train your dog, jump, sit, whatever. But education today at our community colleges and CTE in general is education. And for example, for CTE or the certified technical tech, you have to have a B average, B as in boy. You have to have had chemistry and physics, and geometry and algebra. This is not for dummies. So forget the dumb, and as somebody said earlier, forget the dirty. At Unilever, they wear white coats, little hats, hats on their head, or hairnets and footies, because why? To keep the robots and the automation clean. So you can almost eat on their floor. But so anyway, I think we have to get, and we had to get over that hurdle to get funding from our state education budget. And finally, what we did is we had a consortium of community colleges that involved 50 of our 100 counties. And then the state's government said, well, we could legislate this change to have CTE be part of education, or you guys can decide about it yourself. Well, they did happily decide about it themselves just last March. And now certification courses can be part of NC Promise or the college certification for certifications. So sometimes we have to fight back on that issue of that we're training, because we today are much more than training. So
I would just add to that, so there are some states that are mandating things like in middle school career exploration graduation requirement. I think there are 1 or 2 states that do that. There are some states that are thinking about what are the standards and benchmarks that all of our students need in order to be successful, and really rethinking in ways that states may not have rethought in quite a long time what is actually necessary for kids to be successful. And I think more and more states are beginning to work in career readiness as one of those issues. I would also add, and I think it was Jennifer that mentioned, there's been a big push also around financial education, and that's certainly an important aspect in all of this, right? That kids cannot talk about a lot of these issues divorced from finances and how they will pay for it, what the long-term economic prospects of some of these jobs are. So I think they are extremely intertwined, as you mentioned, Jennifer. It's a really important point that we should be talking about as well. As far as sort of the mandating and the from a federal or state level, I think sometimes a sort of carrot and stick approach might work better in some of these areas. That we should test and try if certain incentives work first before things are mandated, in my opinion. Do increased tax incentives for employer engagement in work-based learning experiences have any value or work at all to increase employer participation in these programs? Are there graduation requirements we could consider around work-based learning? I don't necessarily know if mandates in particular would be as effective as we would want them to be. I think Maya has her hand up.
We have Maya has a question. Maya, feel free to take your self off mute.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for this discussion. And I'm a co-op coordinator at Cincinnati State and Cincinnati, Ohio. We're a 2-year college, and we are really known for our cooperative education program. So we have a total of 9 co-op coordinators that actually work within the college, and we are responsible for making sure that our students are getting that hands-on work experience. Some of the things that we're finding difficulties with is just getting the students, building the connection between the college, the community college, and the high schools is where we're finding difficulty. I think in the past, it was, you go to community colleges and that's where you're going to go and you'll learn a trade there. But it's more to community colleges than just that, right? You can learn the skill sets needed to do a trade, such as being in the welding program, but there are other areas that our students can grow and develop and get degrees in. And I think over time, it appears that parents have kind of put in their children's mind that you need to go to a 4-year institution. You don't need to go to the 2-year, where that is changing. And we're seeing that there is a huge need, especially here in Ohio, where we are having skills gaps, especially in areas like welding, plumbing, electrical. All the baby boomers are getting ready to retire, and they can't find people to replace them. And we have the programs available and ready for the students to come, but we just need to kind of bridge the gap between the parents and the high schools to bring them to us so that we can build this workforce and put them back out there. And I think to the point that was made earlier with the parents, kind of educating them on what technology looks like now. It's not the same gritty look as it was back in the day. It's now a lot more advanced technology based. It's computer oriented, right? A lot of times the computers are doing the things that people used to do many years ago. And so it takes more to run those systems and to kind of do that job. And I think it's a mindset that we need to change in that of parents understanding other opportunities that are available and how the community colleges can help bridge the gap in regards to those skills and helping those students get into the workforce sooner and having that career readiness. That's one of the things that we really stress at Cincinnati State. We work very hard to build relationships with our employers and understanding what their needs are. We do advisory boards once a year where our employers come in, they look at our curriculum, they tell us exactly what is working, what isn't. This is what we're doing new. These are the new technologies that we're using. And we implement that into our curriculum to make sure that when our students graduate, there is a shorter learning curve for them than it would have been if they were to still, if we weren't having those advisory boards and if we didn't have the co-op opportunities for the students. So we're finding that it's there and we're ready, but we just need the students to come. They come, they participate in our program as far as learning and doing the, oh Lord, having a brain freeze, but we have the college tech, they get the credits for taking the college credit plus, that's our program. And so they get that, but they don't come back to Cincinnati State and continue with their degree. They take those while they're in school, but then they don't finish out all the time with the degree. They want to go on to the 4-year institutions, but there's so many benefits to being at the community colleges. And I think that it needs to be a retraining of the mind for the public, for people to understand, parents to understand what the community colleges have to offer and how beneficial they are. So I just wanted to make that comment.
No, that's a really great point. And so ASA is doing some work now with JFF, Jobs for the Future, around a narrative change campaign, really around perception of post-secondary education, what it can and should be, the value that is placed on certain institutions over others. And one of the things that we really found was, from a student perspective, one of the reasons that they tend to default to a 4-year school is because they believed it's what their parents want from them, not necessarily because it's what they want for themselves. And parents default there because it's what they believe employers want. So it's kind of a chicken and egg situation until employers begin to hire from pathways that look a little bit different than what we have traditionally seen. Parents will likely continue to push their kids in that direction, but I think it's a really, really interesting point. Yeah, Penny, you had something to add.
Yeah, I want to say something too from a different standpoint. They're parents and parents. So if you've got,
we just have a couple of minutes left too. We might get cut off. So go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'll be quick on this. One easy thing that the schools can do, that our boys and girls did, was to have best tours that included both the parents and the kids to tour the campus, and it increased the people going there. It's a simple thing, but once they see it, they understand it a little bit better. So I just throw it out. Also remember that a lot of the parents want their kids to go to school to work right away. And so you have to have flex time to attract both the kid and the parents, but the kid has an opportunity to get them into the middle class if they finish the courses at community college. Okay.
Thank you, everyone. I believe that's going to wrap us up. We will be moving on back into the main session. And
I believe, Susie, they do need to go back to the original link they had this morning.
Yes, correct. So you will leave this room with the little blue box down in the right-hand corner of your screen. And then you will have to go back into the main room with your original Zoom link. Okay, was that correct?
I believe so.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Great job, y'all.